You're listening to Have You Ever Wondered? It is Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. I'm Chloe. And the title of today's episode is D and M. So, wild time I've had. But man, this show has been through a few different iterations in the last 24 hours. And if you tend to listen to the show live, then you may have noticed a delayed start. But that's okay. I'm trying to honor kind of like what goes on with me instead of forcing myself into a preconceived mold. So I thought today's show was going to be is not what it turned out to be. What it's actually going to be, because I think yesterday I mentioned that I wanted to talk about football, but it wasn't for yesterday, and apparently it's not for today either. Maybe later in the week. I'm gonna stop trying to force it and just let the football episode come when it's ready. But what really did resonate with me in the meantime was coming back to the matter of Desus and the kid Mero and their split. Which I spent kind of more time than I had intended talking about yesterday, which was the first clue to me that it was hitting me harder than I was letting myself admit. And so once I kind of stopped being in shock and started accepting it as reality, which is what it is, I realized that their partnership meant not only a great deal to me, but to a lot of other people. Now, in addition to this, like, newly admitted import, I also wanted to add some clarification to a couple of things that I mentioned yesterday. I kind of purposefully didn't do any research before the comments that I made yesterday, because I was still processing. Well, actually, I was still in shock from whatever day last week I heard the news, and then over the weekend, I guess I started processing, which led to acceptance during the day yesterday. At least enough to start doing some research, which is kind of how I process things. But yesterday morning, and the night before, Sunday night, when I was preparing, I wasn't at that space yet. And I didn't want to just like run headlong into my normal academic, logical, research-based response, which is a lot of times how I deal with things that I find frustrating or disconcerting. That's not only how I deal with uncomfortable emotions. I also deal with things I like in that way. I like learning about things. But in this case, I just wanted to feel how I felt about it for a while, so I wouldn't let myself look up anything about it. And so all the comments I made yesterday came from what was already in my mind or in my heart. But I did do some additional research, and aside from remembering a couple details that I missed, like for example, there was an iteration of their podcast on Complex before they started producing it themselves. And I think when I said I thought I used to listen to it on their website, it wasn't. It must have been Complex's website because it was a long time ago. And then the other small detail about their career that I forgot was that for a while they were on an MTV show called Guy Code before they got their own show. And pretty much everything else I said about their career survey is pretty accurate. So I don't feel too bad about being able to remember that much. And the other small detail that I didn't realize was that it was in 2013 that they decided to start officially working together professionally, which is around, it must have been around 14 when I started paying attention to them. No, I had noticed their tweets before they formed the partnership. I had noticed the tweets before and then found the podcast after they started. And I didn't realize that I had come in that close to the beginning of their journey. And so I was right about it being about a decade worth of work and friendship, which makes it all the more difficult to stomach. I think sometimes people think I don't have a lot of empathy, but I do. I feel things more deeply than I let on. And one of the things that's bothering me the most about the dissolution of this partnership is their actual friendship. You can get jobs anywhere, but there's something very tragic about losing longtime close friends. Now, the narrative about the split, it's messy, it's biased, it's unclear. I refuse to choose sides. And honestly, I don't think I have to. The fact is, we may never fully know what happened. And honestly, it's none of our business. Like, there's a thing that bothers me about celebrity, which is that as soon as someone's job increases their level of notoriety, people start to feel entitled to all of their personal information. And as a person who is extraordinarily private and not at all famous, that really bothers me. Like, it's none of your business what people are doing sometimes. And what they do for a job should not change that. So, after reading, I don't know how many articles I read, and no one saying anything that didn't sound like speculation, honestly, because you have to know how to read. Everybody just says stuff in the media, but it's just such and such told me this person told me that, I read this on here, someone said this on Reddit. No, that's not reporting. What they were all saying was, we're supposed to write an article about this, but we don't know what's happening, so we're gonna make it up. But these two guys are real people with real families, real friends, and they're going through a really difficult time. They're not just an anecdote or a cautionary tale. The sense I did get, or I should say the sense I did have confirmed by the speculation that I read yesterday, was that I don't think ultimately the split between them would have been possible if there weren't already underlying fissures. And although I don't follow their show, I follow both of them personally on Instagram and like their personal accounts. And I had noticed that they had both been showing up a lot of places absent of one another. As in, it's been a while that they've been doing a lot of things independently, unless they were specifically doing something for the show. So they didn't just wake up one day and go, I don't want to do this with you anymore. It's been coming. But the main reason why I wanted to mention it again, and why I will probably mention it more than once moving into the future while not necessarily giving it its own full episode again, although I don't know, we'll just have to see, is that these two men are brilliant. And it is not often that two men of color, two Black men, two Black child of immigrant men are given such a platform to show their minds, not their athletic prowess, but what their brains can do. And their brains can do a whole lot very quickly, a lot more than a lot of other people, regardless of what they look like. And their hard work and dedication and intelligence and business savvy and chemistry, oh my word, the chemistry and humor elevated certain parts of Black and Latin culture that many of us have been familiar with for years, but that had never received mainstream credibility or notice or legitimacy. And so the fact that they were offered a show, well, multiple shows over time, but that they were 4 seasons into their own show on a major network like Showtime, was a massive win in this country, when most shows are run and operated and staffed with and fronted by and everything by not people of color. It's so hard to get your foot in the door in the entertainment business. And when you do, what some people do is they turn around and they try to kick the door wide open and beckon in as many others as they can after them, which is what you're supposed to do when you trailblaze into a particular area like that. But as they walk off into the sunset in differing directions, that door they opened is going to close back a little behind them. And that makes me feel sad. Not just for them, and as I said before, what appears to be the loss of their longtime friendship, but for all of us. that I feature on the show. The selection process is kind of interesting because a lot of times I try to choose one that's relevant either to what's going on with me, what's going on in the world, or what I've been talking about on that day. And I had a ton of trouble choosing the poem for today because I had a lot of trouble settling onto the topic for today. And so when I was preparing, the poem was like the very, very, very last thing that I did. And what I realized was that I just wanted some comfort because I am grieving. I put it on my Instagram story yesterday. I think I used the word mourning, but it's a serious thing that went on. And they've not just been here for our community and everyone really, like as a beacon, but they've been making us laugh, they were making everyone's day brighter even when they didn't have it, and now that's become abundantly clear. And so when I come across a poem on Instagram from an account I follow or that I don't, I save it in a little folder that I mentioned that I keep. And I looked in my folder and to see if there's anything that was going to resonate with me while I was thinking about what would go with this episode. And the first one that came up was A, by Mary Oliver, and B, called August, which I was marveling about that we've already gotten to yesterday, and I'm still marveling today. So that's the one I'm gonna choose. When the blackberries hang swollen in the woods and the brambles nobody owns, I spend all day among the high branches, reaching my ripped arms, thinking of nothing, cramming the black honey of summer into my mouth. All day my body accepts what it is in the dark creeks that run by. There is this thick paw of my life darting among the black bells, the leaves. There is this happy tongue. Wild blackberries out of the woods in August. What a thought. But it's actually more relevant than I thought because it's about her going off by herself to try to find some happiness and some fulfillment. And maybe that's what's going on in this situation as well. Like I said, we may never know, and that's all right, but I appreciate what seems like not a link between these two topics, but that actually is. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience at the start. Thanks for your patience with the episode that I keep shifting. And I'll see you tomorrow.